Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hey, everybody. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Edward Medor with Workiz. I oversee our strategic partnerships team, and I'm really excited to have Michael Conroy here from NSPG, the National Standard Price Guide. We've recently partnered to bring an amazing new feature to Workiz called Pricebook Pro. Michael's going to walk us through a lot of really cool stuff today. He's going to talk about how the right pricing strategy can help you eliminate a lot of guesswork, improve your margins, and make your business more competitive. So, at the end of the day, whether you're a one-person shop or managing a bigger team, you're going to see how Pricebook with flat rate done right can really help you grow and run more efficiently. We're also going to sprinkle in a little bit about how NSPG and Workiz are teaming up to make pricing, scheduling, and service operations run smoother than ever. So without further ado, Michael, thanks again for being here. I'm going to pass the mic to you, sir.
Thanks, Ed. Good to be here. Excited to see a company that's in the CRM world moving to a real flat rate pricing system that really works.
Michael, I feel like that was a blow to some of the other guys out there. I mean, just maybe a little bit, because I remember one of our first conversations, and we don't have to drop any names or anything, but I remember, Michael, just fun fact for everybody that's joined us today. Michael and I go back, more than 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago. And I remember one of our first conversations, he was like, you know what? I've been at this for a long time. And when somebody leaves me to go over to Pricebook X or Y, Michael, how much did you tell me their profitability usually dropped?
We looked up some numbers. It started over about 10 years ago, and dramatic 40% drop in their average ticket when they started using other books. And we had some conversations with companies. We went in, we visited with them, we wrote with their text, and we found the issues. And that's what's exciting about working with Workiz. A lot of these companies that we work with now, even our software imports into, they don't really care about what the cost scenario is, what your profitability is. They'll tell you that, and they'll put all the profitability in there. They'll say, yeah, we can track this, we can track that. But they have no way of tracking productive hours. They have no way of calculating your total sell price. It's just a number that you plug in. And they don't focus on getting the right number. And that's what we've done for 35 years. Any given day, some of these users that were using our software, there's 55,000 service calls run using our database. Again, it comes back to three things that are simple. Know your numbers. Get your numbers right. Get your price book right. That's organized in a system that your task times are right. They're in the right format, the right organization, and that they can be delivered right. The third thing is how you deliver that price to the customer. What does it look like, and how is it presented? Those are the three key things. And I'm here to tell you that if you guys are going to onboard with the Pricebook Pro in Workiz, you're going to need to put the right number in, and that is your responsibility, not your coaches, not anybody else telling you. It's your responsibility. And throughout the industry for 35 years, I've talked to companies, we've looked at numbers, and you'd be surprised, you'd be shocked that companies that you think are profitable were not profitable, and some of them still aren't profitable. So where does the price come from that we're asking you to put into these books? Well, here's what we found out. Almost, over 45% use the going rate. What does that mean? That simply means that let's call up the shop next to us. What do they charge for this? What do they charge for that? And we're going to use that rate. Now, that going rate, the only thing that's going to get you going is going broke if the company you're using isn't profitable.
Mike, I love that you said that, because it's probably like the sixth time I've heard that just, this year alone. That's how guys are literally going out there and pricing themselves, and they're pricing themselves out of a business, like, I mean, first of all, they're going to be working a job for the rest of their life, because they haven't actually started to treat their business like a business. They're working a job. But I mean, just mirroring yourself off of like what the guy down the street is doing. I mean, I really love that you said that, because not everybody's on the same path. Not everyone's margins look the same. They're over.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. You got to start at the end. It's interesting you said that. We've had an opportunity where we get calls from companies all across the country. And sometimes we get a call from a company that's right across the street from a company. And we run their numbers. We come up with a selling price. And lots of times they'll say, there's no way I can charge that. I'll lose all my customers. I'll show you some slides about that. And what we found is the guy across the street was charging that plus, and he's willing to pay more than this owner is paying himself right across the street. And he said, it won't work in my market. I can't charge that price in my market. Well, we printed the books of both companies. And we can print the book for anybody with any price. We can run your numbers, or you can say, I want to use this price. And I'll tell you flat out that price is going to not make you any money. But we can't get that. And the guy across the street was getting it, and he's willing to pay him more than he's paying himself to work for him. So I would say,
Mike, help me paint a picture here real quick, because some people might still be a little unclear, like, NSPG, you've been doing price books for how long? When did you start with like just the old school paper price book?
The initial price book started in 1990.
Okay.
We created a database for plumbing, HVAC, and electrical in 1990. We were the first printed book out there. And in 1991, we brought the software out. So we were the first company to bring the software out. Numbers Cruncher came out in 90. And we can honestly say we have companies that started with us back in the 90s they were maybe $500,000, $250,000, who are now doing 50 million. And they built it with a solid foundation. They built your business with a solid foundation with numbers that have meaning and that were forward looking. So there's ways that you can play games. Now, there's a lot of ways you can play games with price, with whether it be a water heater, whether it be a ceiling fan. These companies market at low prices. How can they do it for that? And what happens is the competition says, well, if they're doing it for that, I'll do it for that. The problem is they plan for that. It's in their budget. That loss leader is planned for that. If you're not planning for that, you're going to lose. It's the same thing with, can I afford the software? Yeah, of course you can. You're not paying for it. Your customers are paying for it. It's in your budget. It's going to make your life easier. It's going to make your life more efficient, and it's going to make your life more profitable. It's very simple, but you have to plan for that. And that is your responsibility. It's your really biggest responsibility. And as you can see here in this particular chart, a working budget is the only way to come up with the proper rate. And it's less than, it's a little bit over 15% of the industry that are actually using that. Even still, with that in mind, most contractors out there 60% believe they're charging more than their competitors. They're higher. Almost 90%, another 30% feel they're the same. Either they're more expensive or the same as their competitors. And only 9% believe that they're less. That number is dramatically off because it's a perception. When you don't know something, you assume wrong. And assume is ask you me. It doesn't work. We want to be exact with our science and with our numbers. Here's the reality. And this is what I want to get take away from. This is the reality that the price books that have been implemented in Workiz, the Price Book Pro, has good time codes. They're time on task. That means how long is it going to take to make that repair, test that repair, and clean up. That's it. Driving there, talking to the customer, windshield time is not included. And it makes the whole process more simple, more effective. But that means you have to calculate your selling price based on realistic efficiencies. No more guessing. Most don't have any idea. They average make 2% profit, and they believe they charge more than their competitors. Now, here's the real kicker, right? You don't know what to use, and you say, well, I'm making money. I'm paying my bills. I'm putting bread on the table. But think about it. How many of these shops, I've seen divorces, families separate. It's been tragic for a lot of things. These guys work 6 days a week. Are you doing that? Are you working 12-hour days? Are you working 72 hours? And you're paying your bills and you're making some money. But what kind of life is that? I'm saying you can work less and you can make more if you plan it ahead of time. And that's what we can help you do. You can take some guessing. I don't recommend it. Calculate, understand, and measure and adjust. That's the magic formula for your numbers. We have a tool. It's called Numbers Cruncher. It will tell you based on what you plug in. And we have a history of 30 years of contracts who maintain double-digit profits, where they're at, what their efficiencies are at, what are their sold hours, what's their break-even cost, and then what is their desired profit, and what their sales are. If you know this information and now you plug that into Workiz, you're going to have specific details that you can now measure and adjust. And that's what's important for your flat rate to work right. I can tell you again. Yeah, Ed.
Mike, quick question, because I'm thinking it, and I bet you there's a few guys on this call right now that are thinking the same thing. How do I get my hands on this number cruncher? You know, because I'll admit, I might have been one of the guys that was asking some of my competition, even though I know it's crazy, you know, or I might have been just taking a stab in the dark. But how do I get my hands on something like that?
So that's simple. You can go to nspgweb.com. You can get it online, or you can call me. It's the best $800 you'll ever spend in your life because it's going to give you your plan, your GPS, your blueprint to your profitable future by plugging in the right numbers. And now everything else is going to work like a fine-tuned machine when you plug that into your flat rate book. You don't have to do anything. The task times, the material cost, the way it's organized is already set up.
Yeah, because I'll show you guys. Once you have this information, and by the way, little fun plug for Workiz right now. All right, we're bringing you Mike. We're bringing you Pricebook Pro and NSPG, right? But our software can do so much, and now it can do so much more because, you know, before we rolled out Pricebook Pro, I would just come in here and I'd upload a bunch of different, you know, parts and equipment, and I might set them up into like little groups and categories and have brands. But now all you got to do is log in, just make sure that the feature flag has been enabled, right? And then you're going to have Pricebook Pro. And you click view. Now, whether you are an HVAC contractor, electrical, plumbing, all three categories will be available to you. You can see here I've got HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. And once you've figured out that $1 million question, like what is your labor rate? Okay.
There you go.
You know your labor price per hour, as Mike is emphasizing.
Now,
Your number what's that?
Can I say something on that
Yes,
labor?
yes, please.
So here's where all the other guys that you may subscribe to, you heard about, there's a labor price. Oh, what's my labor? I'm paying my technician $40 an hour. He's costing me 80, so I'll put $100 in there. Now, what that means is in Workiz and in our database, that labor price per hour is your sell price. And I'll show you what goes into that. But that's your labor, your overhead, and your profit. All goes into that number. So don't let that number scare you.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, I mean, Mike, you and I have talked about it so many times over the last several weeks. And, you know, I've got great coaching organizations like Service Business Evolution that I'm working with. And, you know, true experts in their craft, like Michael, like my friends at SBE, they always say the same thing. And what is that? If your pricing is wrong, everything is going to be wrong, you know? So this is so mission critical. And something interesting that Mike had said, because, you know, he started with the paper book, and then he was one of the very first to digitalize this and put it into a computer, right? And then Mike, you mentioned at the beginning of our call that, you know, there are folks out there today that are using NSPG price books, and they're having to import those into their field service management software. That is correct, right? So like whether it be our friends over at Jobber or House Call Pro or Service Titan, you know, pick your flavor, right? They take Mike's price book and they import it manually into their field service managed software. What is different now is that our relationship has allowed it to be available to you digitally, and each quarter Mike works his magic on the back end. There might be some updates because of tariffs and the state of the economy. You know, pricing needs to go up. Now, you're still going to be the one that figures out your labor price per hour, but Mike is going to take care of everything else. What should you be charging for X, Y, and Z? But this is a game changer, guys. Like, I get really excited about it. You might call me a dork. I don't care. That's fine. But like, this is like so much time saved, because most of your other customers, Mike, how cumbersome is it for them to have to continue to re-upload these files instead of having it all available to you digitally?
I get calls every single day from those companies you mentioned. They've inputted their price book, some of these guys 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. So what do you think is happening to the material prices? Can we update this? And then the format that they have and the way they make it so you import it, it's a nightmare. I mean, a lot of these companies have consultants to help them manage those imports. With Workiz, the material prices are updated. We do that internally. We use a pricing update service that uses average market price. That's generally about 8% higher than what you're probably paying. So you're covered. And it updates your prices. So it keeps that small piece of the pie, that 15%, intact.
Yeah.
You're responsible. But that, I mean, if you decide to create your own, build your own, you're going to spend years, hours. And not only that, if you're using somebody else's, you're going to spend hours updating and maintaining it.
Yeah. I mean,
that's what's exciting about this partnership, this marriage with Workiz. It's embedded.
Yeah. I mean, literally everything that I could ever think of needing, you know, I've got condenser replacements and add-ons, and, you know, it's very visually pleasing. You've got photos for things. I mean, I don't know about some of your techs, but techs don't always remember what something's called, but they know what it looks like. So it makes it easier to just come in here and look it up, right? And then once you have a legit price book in place, which you will with Pricebook Pro, then the real magic happens, because you can use other features within Workiz, like our sales proposal management tool, so that you can take things directly from the price book and then just put together a good, better, best option. Because Mike, I mean, it might be the best option to fix something today, right? But it might also make sense to just install a new system, right? You got to give those choices, though.
Choices. That's part of the delivery system. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm going to give you back the screen, though. I hijacked the screen from you. So we'll go back to your presentation here. Sorry.
Yeah, just a quick word on that, Ed, what you mentioned before. I know there's lots of software, flat rate softwares out there. I've seen pretty much every one of them. I've seen them imported. I've seen companies advertise that they have a flat rate book. We have a new flat rate book. We have this, we have that. It's up and coming. Even the biggest ones out there basically are lists that have incorrect time codes, incorrect material costs, or no materials, or miscellaneous material. The pictures are wrong, and they're organized in an order that makes no sense. You're getting all that organization. You're getting all that history, experience, labor codes on time on task. It's already set up. So that takes me back to, if you had to build this, or even if you subscribe to somebody else's, the hours you'd have to spend to make it usable are enormous. I've seen it, and I've worked with these companies that use our stuff that try and get it into those programs. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
So that being said,
another question for you, okay? Because I think some people get confused about this too. I could have access to a price book without necessarily having to embrace flat rate, right? Or are all of your price books encompassed around flat rate?
Well, it's encompassed around flat rate because you're giving the customer the choice up front. You're taking all the risk, so you have to plan it out that way. But a lot of these companies, they do commercial stuff, and that's an hourly rate.
Right.
But the flat rate is organized where it's taking consideration all your costs to operate, and you're giving the price up front. So it's got to be, flat rate all the way. That being said, the key is to know what your efficiency is. We know that based on what we put in here. You put in your text, and it gives you all that. That is the Numbers Cruncher program. There's a simple way to do this too. Also, we look at guys that say, "Oh, I can't charge that." Now, here's the thing: you want to think about basic repairs, whether it's a toilet repair, tank valve and a flap, whether it's you're changing out an outlet or a switch, or you're changing out a capacitor. A lot of these other softwares, they'll allocate a minimum of an hour. And then if you have to do a multiple of these things, you got to back out money because it's an hour, but then the second one only takes you 15 minutes. We don't do that. We use time on task. So that basic toilet repair isn't an hour, it's a half hour. So if you're charging $200 an hour, and it's an hour, that's $200 for the repair. In our book, it'd be time on task. It'd be a half hour. That means that if you were charging $200 an hour and you put that in our book, that repair would be $100. It's going to be too cheap. So that's why you have to know your selling price based on the real efficiency. And I'm not going to go into how do you develop that in this particular webinar. We can go through that in a different conversation. But we have a simple chart here. Okay, I say start at the end. One truck should be doing $500,000. That's the goal, what you need to get to. Well, if you're doing that with the owner, what's your selling price? Well, this spreadsheet will calculate it out. Your selling price needs to be $510, right? And what's the owner going to take? Well, he's going to get paid the percentage of labor, 100K out of the 5. That's a 20% number. These are benchmarks, KPIs that we found work over the years. And then he's going to get a profit. How about that? He realizes a profit, less the tax on a profit. He's going to walk away with $163,000 a year, one truck. So that's the way. Now, if you're at $200,000, he's going to only walk away with $65,000. So we're showing you, looking at the end result first, and that's what we do. We look at the end first. And there's some things you need to know. You need to know how your business is set up with the right percentages. All right. So what is your breakdown? Well, generally, we look at a profitable service company, and 40% of their cost is allocated for overhead. 20% is allocated for labor on the service side. So that means that on a $1,000 job, right, you got $400 for overhead, $200 for labor. You got $600 out of $1,000 right here. If you never updated your material, but you made sure these numbers were right, you're going to be at least profitable with guessing at that. Now, if you update your material and that's spot on, you're in good shape. You're going to make that margin. The problem is, here's the real problem. Most guys will underestimate what their costs are, this number here. They'll underestimate it. They won't put in people they need in place because they can do something. I can be a service manager. I can be a CEO. I can be the technician. I can be the marketing manager. Now you're doing everything. But to run a business, you need to put people in those places and you have to allocate salary in there. Well, how do you get there? Well, if you don't have a service manager, you don't have a CSR, put it in your budget first. Instead of taking a loan out, put it in your pricing. Now you're getting paid for it. Guess what? 6 months later, you can afford to hire that person. It's the same thing with the software. For example, let's say that software is going to cost you, what is the software going to cost a guy, a small shop, Ed? The whole package.
I don't hold me to this because my account executives love to sharpen their pencils and throw out the best deal they can. But let's just say all in, you're looking at right under $400 a month. Like that's assuming you're not getting any discounts whatsoever from Workiz. 5 users, just about $400 a month. And you know what, Mike, I hear it all the time. We'll be talking to a smaller HVAC business owner, plumbing, electrical, doesn't matter. They'll say, I can't afford that. And it blows my mind because I think you can't afford not to do that. But help us understand the numbers behind that.
Let's give you a little pearl of wisdom to take back with you. So all you guys know software company. He's saying 400. Well, you know it's going to cost you more than that. Let's say it's 500 a month, right? So what's that? That's $6,000 a year, right? Well, how are you going to pay for that? Well, think about it. If you're one truck, and I'm telling you to use realistic efficiencies, that's basically 40%. Not anymore, because we're only using time on task. You're not getting paid driving there. You're not getting paid to estimate. You're not getting paid to talk, only for the work. So we're going to use 40%. And I can show you in another webinar why that is, but let's use that number. So if you had 2,080 hours at 40%, you're at 832 hours. If we take that $6,000 a year and we put it in your budget, software, and we divide it by those 832 hours, it costs you $7. $7.21. We can take your budget, and if your budget right now, if you're charging $300 an hour, we can add $7.21 to your selling price, and now it doesn't cost you anything. That's how we play this game. Example, if you have to put a water heater in and the nearest competitor is charging $1,500 and you're charging, your software tells you need to charge $2,000, well, you're going to lose $500. You can take that $500 loss, say, you know what? I'm going to be a low-cost provider for this, do a loss leader, plug that into your budget, raise your overhead $5, and now you can be the local. That's how these big guys do it. That's how they crush you. So you play the same game with the numbers. Here's a simple example. Let's say your sales is 200K, but you're paying your technician 60 grand. Well, your profit should be 50, but what happens? You don't have the profit because you're paying your tech more, because his sales need to be higher. Well, if you had the tools to be able to get your numbers right, make sure the numbers are right in the book, have access to all those organized tasks, and then be able to present them to the customer, that number is going to change. That's where you're going to get your 500. Now you can pay your tech 100 grand, and now you got profits. So you got to plan for this, and you got to know how these things are calculated. Here's a simple test we used to use on our seminars. What's the sell price of this job? I don't know if anybody can type this in. Your material cost is $400, your labor is $500, your overhead's $500. You got $1,400 in direct cost. You want to earn 25%. Which one of these is your selling price?
I think it's 1866.67. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. This is a
I
division.
didn't do math, but I figured that one out.
How it works is your cost plus profit reciprocal. So the profit reciprocal of 25% is 7.5. So you just divide that by 0.75, and that's what your sell price is. Simple math.
Excellent.
Here's the most impactful graph I want to leave you guys with. And it really saddens me when I sit down with companies that have been in the business 10 years and they're 2-3 truck shops and they're working 72 hours and they're just turning dollars. If your break-even's off, if you underestimate your operating costs and you overestimate your selling hours and your break-even's off by $10, in your career of a 30-year career, you're going to lose $600,000 in 30 years for a one-truck company. But here's the fact, and I know this because I've been working with companies. That's 10 to 20x. That means that these guys are off by $100 or $200 an hour when they're using flat rate. When they go from T&M to flat rate, they're off by that much. That changes that number to about $6 million. That's what you could sell your company for, your small company for, in 30 years. You just lost that money because you had no profits. Don't be that guy. Get that number right. Let's get it right with you. So when you go with your flat rate books, you're making money day one.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let's say I am in that boat where, I'm still doing things, time and materials, and there's a lot of them out there because I had one come to my house and I just about lost it though. From a consumer perspective, I lost it because he's sitting there showing me that he's billed me out for 2 hours of labor when he was here for 15 minutes. And I'm like, man, if that was flat rate, I wouldn't even be batting an eye because I don't know what this costs. I don't know how much that part cost that you put in. But there he's showing me that the part was only like $5. And so then I got a little heated about it. You know what I'm saying? But, Mike, let's say I am a business owner who's still doing things time and materials. What advice would you have for me if I'm on the fence? I'm resisting that switch. Like, what do you got?
I'd say just look at, the whole point of being in business is to make money and live a comfortable life. And right now in this day and age, you've seen plumbing companies, the consolidators come out, guys are becoming millionaires left and right. Now is the time to shine. You are the star player. If you don't make your money now, when?
Well, let me ask you a question though, because I remember talking to a contractor not even a week and a half ago up in Canada, and he said, that might be all fine and good for certain markets, but that's never going to work up here. We can't do flat rate up here. Our customers want to know exactly what they are paying for time and materials.
Yeah.
Do you think that's maybe a biasness on his end? He hasn't fully bought into it because let's face it, perception is reality, right?
It's a mindset. It's a mindset thing. So my experience overrules what they're telling me. I get calls like that every single day. It won't work in my area. So what area are you? Well, we are a small town. I got a small town in Alabama, Mustard Shoals, Alabama. I got a small town out in up in Canada somewhere. I got a small town out in California, all over the place. Would you like to talk to them? They were charging $75 an hour. They wanted to increase their rate to 150. And I said, well, you might as well just hang up the phone now because you ain't going to make any money doing it that way. When we finished their numbers, they were at 550 the first year. Their sales went from 20,000 a month to 50,000 a month in 1 month by implementing the flat rate pricing. Now, they were the guys that told me they could not charge any more than they were. And it comes back to, are you a commodity price company that just selling parts and labor, or are you a value-based company that's selling value and a solution to give a customer a better life, more comfortable, more efficient, and just more safe? Is that what you're doing? So you got to change your mindset, and some people won't. But what I find is some people that don't come back to me 5 and 10 years later, and it saddens me because they wasted 10 years to make that decision in their own head. And here's the reality of it. Everybody said, I can't charge that. I'll lose all my customers. Well, here's a chart that we did. We said, all right, well, let's go along with that. Let's say that you're selling 3,000 hours. You're a 1.5 truck company selling 3,000 hours, all right? And your time and material at 175. Well, based on the profit margin, you're making about $9,800 for the year. If you were to lose 25% of your business and change your price to where it should be, you'd make $255,000 more. What if you lost 50% of your customers because these people don't want to pay you what you're worth? You'd make $170,000. If you lost 75% of the cheap people that won't pay you to do what you're worth, you're going to still make $85,000 more. It doesn't make any sense.
Wow.
It makes no sense not to charge the right price. The numbers show, and here's the reality of it. Every time somebody said, I raised my price, I'm going to lose all my customers. You know how much they lose? Less than 1%. Less than 1%. These were the customers that they should have fired in the beginning. They should have gave them to their competitors. That's how, if you follow and you build your business based on knowing the numbers, get your numbers right, get your price book right, get your delivery system right, and you give customer choices, they're going to be happier than they are when you don't give them a choice and just do the work and give them a bill. As you well know, you experience that.
Hmm. Now, let me ask you a question because we're getting close on time here. But what what do you think is one of the biggest mistakes that somebody makes? And I think I know the answer to this already because I've been paying attention to you. But what do you think is one of the biggest mistakes that somebody makes when they are actually implementing, a flat rate price book?
Yeah. The number one mistake and the number one fear is this number here. They're afraid to put in the right selling price. And what's kind of nice is you could put in a lower price if you're afraid. I recommend get the right number in the beginning, and you'll see you're not going to lose your customers,
Yeah.
but you're not going to make the money. And I've seen companies take 2 and 3 years of weaning that right price. And finally, when they do, they're like, I don't know why I didn't do this 5 years ago. So I would say, get your numbers right, get it forward, be confident, get your mindset right, get your numbers right, your mind right, and get your price book right.
Yeah.
And it all
This is a powerful demonstration right there, even assuming, you lost 75% of your sold hours, like that's huge.
Yeah.
So more is not always better as far as, having these great big numbers. I heard this recently. Some guy was bragging about how, he'd grown his business to, I think it was like close to $10 million or something, but the fact of the matter was, Mike, when he was only doing like $2 million a year, he was actually making more money. Like his profitability was actually better.
Yeah. You're going to scale. You want to scale profitability at one. The biggest mistake is not using the right number. The more trucks you put on, the more you're going to lose. Right. And the more it hurts you. So if you can't be profitable with one truck and have it organized the right way, don't put another truck on.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And just here's a takeaway. Even if you're one truck, you can afford this software. You can afford the numbers if you put it in and plan it. And that's going to allow you to then grow and scale quicker.
Yeah. Well, Mike, I really appreciate it. And do you have anything, take us home? Any last minute words of wisdom, or let's say I am interested in getting signed up today for Pricebook Pro with Workiz and NSPG. What do I have to do? What do I have to do?
I would say get your numbers right. If you want, we can send that sample sheet that has the numbers in there. But look at what you're charging. Look at your margins, and most likely, if your time and material right now, what you're charging now needs to be tripled, from what I've seen. Think about that, and then, really seriously think about getting a forward-looking working budget or a numbers cruncher to get your numbers right. And don't even, just don't even question it. Just say, what's going to cost me? How much is that going to cost me per hour? And plug it into your budget and get it paid for. And then you're not going to have to look back, because I can tell you the data is going to give you what you need if you put the right number in there.
Awesome. And from an activation standpoint within the Workiz platform, it is super simple. I'm really happy at how we've been able to build this out with Mike. And we didn't build it overnight. We took our time on this to make sure that we were going to do it. And if you're going to bother to do something, you might as well do it right. And so I think we have, and I think it's only going to get better from here. We're going to continue to lean in and work with each other to provide the most robust, powerful solution available. So I will tell you, in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, there's a little chat option there. If anybody's got a last-minute question, maybe you've been too nervous to ask, don't be nervous. Somebody else might be thinking the same thing. If you had a member of your team that was unable to join today, fear not. We've recorded this. We'll be sending it out for you to review. It is very easy to activate with Workiz. If you'd like to see a demo of Workiz, in that chat feature, I've put a link. You can click on there. We'll walk you through a demo. For those of us, or for those of you that are joining later, it is partner.workiz.com/NSPG. But we'd love to walk you through our software and how that all, ties into NSPG, Pricebook Pro. But we'd like to help you get your numbers right. Okay, that is definitely what we'd like to do. Whether you're using our software or not, NSPG is the price book that I think you should be using. And because we have such an awesome integration with NSPG, you should definitely be using Workiz. But I try to stay agnostic there. I would love if the whole world went out and got Workiz tattoos, but that's probably not going to happen. So with that said, a very big thanks again, Mike, for joining us. Happy to have you as a partner with Workiz. I have not seen any questions come in the chat yet. Here's a question from Andre. I love Andre. He is one of our garage door pros. He's wondering, is there a Pricebook Pro coming for garage doors? Could you do a Pricebook for garage doors, Mike? Is that something on radar today?
We could build one. We'd have to work with one of your clients that use garage doors and build it out. But yeah, that is a possibility. It doesn't exist right now, but of course we could build it out.
Well, we've got a few of those for you, Mike. So Andre might even be the guy that raises his hand and says, yes, I'm in. I want to do this. But in any case, yep, see, you even got a little heart symbol there. You got nothing but love from Andre. So, Mike, again, appreciate your time. Everyone that took time out of their day today, once again, thank you from Workiz. Your business means a lot to us. We appreciate you. I wish you an amazing rest of your week. And until next time, thank you.
Cheers.